Hello and welcome to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Mike, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables, sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you tonight? Besides freezing.
Yeah, I'm cold, but other than that, I'm not doing too bad.
No, I know. I hope everyone is staying warm. Pretty much the entire country is in freezing cold temperatures. But we were just chatting before the show about how no news breaks during the show, right? We've never really had any breaking news during the show, but right before the show, about 3 minutes before we start, it is revealed that Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy will be staying with the team for his final year on his contract. They will not terminate him. They will not participate in this year's coaching carousel. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's dumb. I think it's very stupid. We'll get there, Dan. We'll get there. Yeah, I'm not surprised because it's Dallas and I don't get it. I feel like I don't have anything constructive to say about it. So I don't want to just spend 10 minutes just like saying the same thing over and over in different ways, which is probably what I'd end up doing. But like Dallas is going to Dallas. It's the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. It didn't matter how good they were during the regular season. They folded when it mattered. And that at the end of the day, that's all that happened. So Mike McCarthy is who he is.
Yep. I think it's silly to sit out on a coaching carousel this stacked. Whatever you were looking for is available for your taking this season pretty much. So we'll see how it pays off for the Cowboys. On the same similar note, Mike Tomlin did tell the team that he will be staying with the Steelers for the final year on his contract. When the reporters had said, like, you're on the final year, he literally walked out. It was about 2 days later that he said, I do intend to return. The organization intends to have me back, so Mike Tomlin will be back there. Obviously, the big news happened the day after our show. The Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick part ways. Wild, even though we saw it coming, still crazy. It's hard to imagine the Patriots without Belichick and Belichick without the Patriots after what he's accomplished there. But they did decide to move on. It was didn't seem to be a very extensive search as they did. Oh, did they not? They just hired.
No, so they had They had something built into Gerard Mayo's contract, apparently, when he signed on as an assistant, that basically said that if Bill Belichick moved on from the team, or if there was an opening, I don't know what the language is, that they could hire, like, that he could step right into that role.
You're right. I saw the jokes about Succession and, like, how it was football's Succession.
And because of that contract, they were not legally obligated to do a full coaching search.
Okay. I didn't know how that worked with like the Rooney Rule and stuff, but I guess when it's like legally binding in a contract that they didn't have to do that. Makes sense. Okay. So yeah, that's it. Gerard Mayo, former linebackers coach who spent most of his all of his professional career with the Patriots. He was drafted 10th overall in 2008 and played till 2016 with the Patriots. He is now their new head coach. The Patriots and Gerard Mayo had their press conference this morning. I watched a decent amount of it. Duncan released to me something I didn't see, which was he basically revealed they'll be drafting a quarterback. He didn't say so in as many words, but
yeah, it wasn't something that he said. It wasn't during his speech with Robert Kraft. It was. I'm gonna say. I think it was with a local news station or something. I'm trying to find the exact tweet. I don't know why. I literally just saw it, and for some reason I chose not to keep it in front of me. Yeah, here we are.
Pretty much saying that they have the 3rd overall pick. It's a valuable pick. He's going to use it to draft a position which is highly valued, and the rest of us can put the pieces together.
Yeah, we're going to draft the best player at an important position. You do the math is more or less what he said.
Yep.
I can't find the exact quote, but Yeah, that wasn't during his official press conference. I believe it looked like it was with a local news station.
Okay.
But yeah, so I guess they're drafting quarterback at 3rd overall.
Yeah. We'll see. The Commanders hire former 49ers assistant general manager. He was also at one point the former vice president of player personnel for the 49ers, Adam Peters, as their new general manager. Obviously, the organization's under a lot of change, a lot of new ownership and advisors, and now they have their new general manager.
I also, I don't have a lot to say about that, but something I do want to say about hiring Gerard Mayo. The most intriguing part of it for me is the fact that he has spent his entire professional career with one organization, that's the Patriots. It's going to be really interesting to watch him fill out his staff. I think that's something that I'm sure Patriots fans are thinking about, but is probably going a little bit under the radar. Typically, you get coaches that are moving into head coaching positions that have been all over the NFL, have been on a lot of different coaching staffs, or at least a few different. He's been under Belichick his entire playing and coaching career. And I just think that's going to be a very interesting hurdle that he's going to have to because, well, the coaching staff hasn't been very good outside of Bill Belichick in recent years, and defensive position coaches here or there, but especially the offense. It's just I'm looking forward to seeing what his solutions are to those possible problems.
Yeah, and to me, I think it's also interesting because it is so much conversation about the Belichick way, right? And how it doesn't really translate elsewhere, that other people have tried and it doesn't work. We saw Joe Judge try the Belichick way with the Giants. That didn't work. So you see people try and fail. So to see how Gerard Mayo approaches that when what he knows is the Belichick way will be interesting. A lot that's stuff that will come out with time and with players who come and go and coaches who come and go. I don't expect to get information on that right away on how he treats it the Belichick way, but it will be interesting to see nonetheless. Next is
Wait, one more thing. Sorry.
Okay.
The exact quote: "We're going to draft the best player for a position that's very important. You put the pieces together." And it was for, he said that in an interview with WBZ, CBS News Boston. So I was pretty darn close to getting it word for word.
You were. The Saints fire offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael after 15 seasons. Obviously, Dennis Allen was revealed to be staying with the organization, but they do fire their offensive coordinator.
I don't get it.
Another one that seems a little silly.
Look, I've been saying this for 2 to 3 seasons now. They're just a lost, not maybe quite as lost and confused as the Titans were, and maybe still are, but I just don't get what the Saints are doing. I don't get it. If anything, I would have fired him just because instead of maybe just lying about his players not listening to him, he went out and defended Arthur Smith, who got fired. I just don't get it. I don't get why you retain him. I don't get what he
silly.
has. I don't.
It's the best way to describe it. Is it seems pretty silly. And last piece of big news from this week was Colts owner Jim Irsay was apparently found unresponsive in his bed by police in December. The story goes that EMTs arrived, administered Narcan that worked partially, and the incident in reports, police reports, EMT reports, is classified as an OD/drug-related incident.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did kind of skip over one piece of news, which isn't technically hi, Jake. Hi, Jake's dad. I don't want to dox you and say, I guess your last name is showing up on the Facebook. Hi, Mike. But this isn't an official piece of news, but let me just go find the actual report. It is that how do I lose these things so quickly?
Every time.
It's really bad. At least this time I sent it into a group chat. But Diana Rossini reported that Eagles GM Howie Roseman and head coach Nick Sirianni have been reaching out to available NFL coaches and coordinators, as well as coaching agents across the league to evaluate potential coordinator candidates to join their coaching staff as they plan for the 2024 season. This happening after the supposed meeting between Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, and Nick Sirianni to discuss what the future may look like, and with the outcome of that meeting probably deciding whether or not head coach Nick Sirianni keeps his job. This report implies, though it is not confirmed, it is not reported yet, it implies that Nick Sirianni will be retained as head coach, likely with changes to at least, I would assume, the defensive coordinator position and very possibly the offensive coordinator position and maybe other pieces of his staff. Yeah. I didn't know what to think. About a month ago, if you had asked me, I would have said there was no way he's getting fired. And then arguably one of the biggest collapses I think we've ever seen in the NFL. Most drastic collapses for sure, not based around injuries or like a key.
I think the only ones comparable is that 11-1 Steelers run, right? I feel
11
like
and 0.
11-0. Sorry, 11-0 Steelers run would be the one that's comparable.
Yeah, even that one never felt the same. Because I don't think
I know what you mean.
Yeah, the Eagles were coming because the Steelers, the Eagles were coming off a Super Bowl loss. Like everyone had any right to believe that they were just as good as their record was. Eagles fans, people that watched it, they were like, they don't look 10-1 good. They're still good. They're not great. But then this collapse is the Steelers didn't fall to this height, I don't think. And that's the difference is the Steelers lost in the first round of the playoffs, sure, because they weren't that great of a team. But this Eagles team looks like I'm out there calling the plays by pressing Ask Madden, like for offense. Yeah. And then the defense, you have two bad outings against two great offenses on short weeks with the extended rest for the other guys. After your defensive coordinator is working around injuries and all that, you demote your defensive coordinator and promote Matt Patricia to essentially be the defensive coordinator and play caller for no reason. And that blew up in your face. The defense got drastically worse. And meanwhile, the offense just never found their footing. Watching replays, watching breakdowns of this playoff game in particular, they have no answer for the blitz. I know I'm kind of jumping into like the game.
Very far.
Yeah, sorry. I got sidetracked, but regardless, I don't know if this is worth it to keep Nick Sirianni. I like Nick Sirianni, but at the end of the day, he didn't do the things that being a head coach that's not calling plays. He didn't do the things well that he should have been doing, which is game management, decision making, that kind of stuff. And the offensive scheme is his. He said it. And that offensive scheme consisted of essentially wide receiver screens, running the ball sometimes, but not really, and 4 verts. They didn't throw over the middle. And it just, I don't get it. They had no answer for the blitz. It's just, very bad.
Did you see the tweet I sent you this morning that said history? The Eagles ran 690 screenplays this season. It accumulated for negative 26 yards. It's an NFL record single season low in yardage on screens.
To be clear, you know that's fake, right?
I know. I'm just saying. I'm sending it to you. I like that. That's how it feels.
Okay. The way you read it made it sound like it was real.
No,
I'll be very clear that's fake.
I sent it to you.
I'm
saying that's how it feels.
Well, you didn't say that. You just read
that's what I meant. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm saying you just read it. It's important to put the asterisk because Eagles fans were legitimately questioning whether or not that was real because that is what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very bizarre. Very bizarre. A lot of it's going to matter who they can bring in at coordinator positions. But yeah, it's again, I guess technically it's not official. But I do expect that, based on the reporting, I expect that to be the case. So I guess we'll find out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've gone to the last game of Super Wildcard Weekend, let's go to the first one. Let's do some game recap here. The Texans versus the Browns ends in a stunning 45-14 Texans victory.
Just like we all saw coming.
Yeah, absolutely. CJ Stroud absolutely demolished the Browns' incredible defense. They had no answer. Stroud tied the NFL rookie record for most passing touchdowns in a game at 3. He did all 3 of those in the first half. The Texans came out aggressive
in the playoffs. To be clear.
Sorry, that's what I mean. In the playoffs, the Texans came out aggressive and came out on top. CJ Stroud is the first rookie quarterback drafted in the first round to win a playoff game since 2009 when Mark Sanchez did it with the New York Giants.
Wouldn't he probably have done it with the New York Jets?
Oh, yes.
Yep. So Mark Sanchez did it with the Jets, not the Giants.
Sorry. I literally am typing all of my notes as the games go. So these notes are transcribed, like my game notes, most of those are transcribed as I do it. And then I must have just kept typing. And I typed New York and instinctively typed Giants.
Fair
and
enough.
I just read. And then I just read.
Yeah, but D'Amico Ryans, man, he's a good coach.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud is not afraid of the moment. They're doing it all without, their third round rookie sensation, Tank Dell. Yeah, I mean, this is what I expected this team to be like maybe 2 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But more impressive than anything is they did this against the top defense in the league in the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns. I wish I had like deep, insightful commentary to provide for this game, but like they dominated on both ends of both sides of the football.
Yep.
CJ Stroud, he from the very first moment this season, he never felt like he was a rookie. It never felt like you were watching a rookie. You kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never did, and guess what? It still hasn't. Granted, he is now going to be playing the number 1 seeded Baltimore Ravens. So, who knows? Maybe he'll keep surprising us.
Yeah. Key players on the Browns just Myles Garrett didn't really do anything. Joe Flacco looks like he just got off the couch last week instead of a couple weeks ago. The Browns just didn't look like themselves. The Browns didn't have an answer for anything for what the Texans were doing. Texans receivers kept getting open, and the pass rush on Joe Flacco could not be stopped, and they had no answer for anything. I agree with you. I have more insight on most of the other games. This one for me was just a stunner, and I really don't have too much insight on it because, again, the Browns had no answer for anything the Texans did.
Yeah, Texans just dominated.
Anything, even this game, but anything going forward is just icing on the cake for this Texans team who didn't expect to be here. And I think they're just probably is probably one of the most incredible stories of the season so far.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, on to another blowout. It seemed to be the theme of Wild Card Weekend. The 4th coldest game in NFL history, the Chiefs versus the Dolphins. The Chiefs walk away with a 26-7 win. The kickoff temperature was -4 with a wind chill of -27. That was the storyline leading up to the game all week. It was the 4th coldest game in NFL history. It was the Rashee Rice show for most of it. And the Steve Spagnuolo show. That was... what a performance from him. Tua was under constant pressure from Jones, Karlaftis, Omenahue. It was nearly lockdown defense from McDuffie and Ladarius Sneed. The Dolphins could not do anything. Whether you want to put some of that on the cold weather and the Dolphins playing out of their element or just the game plan that the Chiefs brought forward to the Dolphins could not do anything in this game.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I don't think the Chiefs were like crazy impressive. I mean, the score looks... it was a blowout. The Chiefs were definitely more impressive than the Dolphins, but they didn't like blow me away and make me think, oh, wow, the regular season didn't happen. They really turned on a new gear. It's like, no, they had a lot of very similar problems that they had most of the season. It just didn't matter because they have a lot of talent and Andy Reid's a good head coach. At the end of the day, you have Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, the defense showed up and were able to really that combined with the cold weather, were able to slow down the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
And if they were going to win, it was going to be on offense.
Yep. And some of the most interesting points of the game was when Patrick Mahomes' helmet broke. That was crazy. One of the coolest photos I've seen. I wish I grabbed the name of the photographer. I believe her name is Emily. If you find the photo of Patrick Mahomes in the hit, you can see the piece of his helmet flying off on the photo. It's one of the coolest photos I've seen this season. He was wearing a quarterback-specific Visus helmet. Those of you who have watched a long time know I am very interested in brain injuries and helmets for NFL players. Quarterback-specific Visus helmet. Obviously, I think part of that has to do with just the way he was hit, but a lot of that does also have to do with the cold temperatures. And honestly, it breaking is kind of a good thing because it didn't absorb the very cold helmet, didn't absorb and put all of that energy back onto Patrick Mahomes' head. It snapped and broke a piece off. I will say it was a little odd because usually they didn't like have to call a timeout for or use it. The Chiefs didn't have to use a timeout there, which usually would have to happen, or Patrick Mahomes would have to sit out a play. It was a little odd situation going on there. Not that big. The next big storyline was Andy Reid's mustache, frozen solid with icicles on it, looking like that the picture of the walrus with the icicles on its like whisker things. But
yeah,
those were two of the best storylines from this game.
And now the Miami Dolphins hold the longest playoff drought
They
in
do.
NFL, having
They
not
do.
won in 23 years since December of 2000.
Yes.
With
Crazy.
the Lions winning, of course, being the reason that is broken.
Yep. And one of my favorites is the Dolphins didn't convert a single third down until a couple minutes into the fourth quarter. They had a really tough time. I really credit the most of this Chiefs win to Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that changes next week. We'll get into the breakdowns for the upcoming games, but
Yep. All right.
Next
our favorite game of the weekend.
Absolutely, hands down.
The Packers seem to have accidentally stumbled upon another generational quarterback. The Packers strongly defeat,
blew out.
Well, I wanted to say, despite the Packers strongly defeat the Cowboys, despite what the final score will tell you. The final score was 48-32. The Packers walk away into the divisional round.
It was 48-16 when the game ended.
What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the final score is, and honestly, the box score, I take those numbers and throw them out the window.
No, Dak with an ultimate stat padding attempt in the fourth quarter there. Just incredible work by him. Yeah. Really truly putting up those crazy playoffs numbers, keeping the game close, coming so close to getting that win. It's almost like he's not elite.
Yeah, you and I had this conversation with someone at work the other day that you and I 2 years ago had a conversation about how we just thought Dak didn't have the it factor, the clutch. He could not show up in these key moments. That for us, that was a huge point of his play, was that he didn't have this clutch factor, clutch gene, whatever you want to call it, that he did not possess that in our eyes. And I think it just keeps showing itself over and over again.
He has 2 playoff wins in 8-9 seasons. I got in an argument with, ironically, Mr. Dino Game Theory himself, Jax Falcone, on the Undrafted podcast a couple weeks ago, and I plan on going back and clipping some of that because we had a long conversation, a long argument about Mr. Dak Prescott, Jax calling him elite, all of this other stuff, and, well, let's just say that exactly what I predicted happened. It happened around sooner than I expected, but in more hilarious fashion. But yes, the Cowboys did get blown out on national television.
I want to hear your thoughts on the Packers first, and then let's talk about the Cowboys a little bit.
Yeah, the Packers, they're the youngest team, one of the youngest teams ever. They have the youngest offensive core, skill players to ever be in the playoffs. They didn't have a single Pro Bowler, not a single All-Pro. Matt LaFleur is a really good coach. To me, that's my biggest takeaway. Jordan Love has been playing really well for about 7 weeks now, 7-8 weeks. The second half of the season, he really, really turned it on. And there was a noticeable difference in his stature, in the way that he played the game, the way that he was seeing the game. And yeah, they just took it to the next level. And I credit Matt LaFleur with that greatly. Because again, Dallas is one of the better defenses in the league, one of the best defenses in the league. And they just kept putting up points. And not to mention, the Packers don't have all that talented of a defense, and they're going up against one of the best offenses in the league.
Yes.
One of the most humming offenses.
Especially at home.
Yeah, well, the Cowboys were coming off a 16 straight home win streak, 8-0 this season, and winning games by over 20 points on average this season.
Yep.
The Packers are also officially the first 7 seed to ever win a playoff game.
Yay!
And so glad it happened against the Dallas Cowboys. But the Packers are impressive. They're an impressive team. They are not afraid to punch above their weight. And I don't think I'll be picking them. Spoiler alert, I don't think I'll be picking them to win this week. But I'm not going to count them out. Like I probably counted them out last week. I think most
Yeah.
people probably did more because of Dallas than because of the Packers. But
Yes.
yeah, I'm not going to count them out this week.
Yeah, for me, I think it was just that the Packers' patience with all of that young talent is really starting to pay off for them. I don't think they didn't rush the development of a lot of these guys. Like you said, it's the youngest offensive core, and I don't ever feel like they put them in bad situations. I felt like they continuously lifted these guys up, and I think that's finally paying off for them. Aaron Jones obviously recorded his fourth 100-yard game in a row, and just their whole game plan as a whole, they came in what felt like so free and loose and aggressive in a good way. Like I do think that there's bad ways to be aggressive in a football game, but they came out aggressive in like a very fluid, fun way. And I think that really worked for them. I don't think it felt like they never took themselves too seriously in this game, and that they were just playing to play ball, right? We're here. We didn't expect to be here. We're just going to play ball. So I think a lot of people counted them out. I don't think they counted themselves out, but they played as if like we had nothing to lose. We're playing because we're here. That's, we're going to have fun with it. I think Jordan Love was absolutely incredible. He adapted so well to pressure, even though the Cowboys couldn't get much pressure on him. When they did, he adapted really well. He made a bunch of beautiful off-platform throws. And the Packers' use of motion on offense was, I think, crucial to a lot of their offensive success. And that leads me into Dallas, who played man coverage for majority of their season and played it really well. And for some reason switched to playing zone coverage for majority of this game, and it never worked for them. The use of motion by the Packers absolutely revealed that they were in zone consistently. I think the Packers kept expecting the Cowboys to move back to man, and that use of motion was to try and identify that. And they really didn't. And because of that, they never forced Jordan Love to make these throws into really tight coverages or expose himself on throws. And receivers just kept getting open, and the zone defense did not work for this for this Cowboys team. I don't think Dan Quinn had a good performance in this game with his defense. Micah Parsons got one pressure, and it wasn't even like a full pressure. They couldn't do anything to stop this offense. And while yes, the Packers have been playing really well, like you said, for the last 7 weeks, this Cowboys defense should have been able to slow down this Packers offense at least a little bit.
Yeah, and they didn't. They didn't. Micah Parsons was effectively not playing in the game.
Yep.
They were incredible. Packers just embarrassed the Cowboys. But hey, we're going to run it back.
Well, all of my numbers here. Dallas has only won 4 playoff games in the last 27 years. This is the Cowboys' 13th trip to the playoff without advancing to the conference championship game, extending their own streak for the longest such drought in the NFL history. That comes from Field Yates. And the Cowboys are the first team to win 12 games in 3 straight seasons and failed to make the conference championship in any of them. That's since 1970. And I got that off of Ed Werder's Twitter.
Yep. It's also the 28th consecutive season that they didn't make a conference championship. So that obviously combining with the 13th playoff appearance. Yeah. So not a lot of fun if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. If you're basically anyone else, you probably had a lot of fun watching that game. I was giddy the whole time. It was maybe the most enjoyable part of my weekend.
Yep. I obviously we all know a Cowboys fan. They are everywhere like roaches. So it's like I didn't even have anything to say other than like LMAO throughout the entire game. You and I that was our entire conversation. The entire game was just like, oh my god, LMAO, ha ha ha. Like that was like there's nothing to say. It was just so funny. Funny. So America's team, and then we'll move on to what felt like real America's team this game was the Lions versus the Rams. The Lions walk away with a win in a 1-point game, 24-23. The Lions advance. They win their first playoff game in 32 years. And for the first time in franchise history, the Lions will play 2 playoff games at home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really good game from the Lions, a really good game from the Rams. Matthew Stafford is a warrior, battled through probably too much, depending
Yes.
whether or not you think he got a concussion. We'll probably never know. But he definitely just got hit a ton and had some very serious looking injuries. There was a real point in time where it looked like Carson Wentz was about to come in. And
Mhm.
I don't mean to alarm you, but if Carson Wentz had went in and won the game, assuming Matthew Stafford could not play the following week, in all of my Eagles group chats, we were saying, "Oh God, if we win our
Mhm.
game, we would be playing the Carson Wentz-led Rams in the second round of the playoffs."
Yeah.
Obviously, neither of those things came to pass, but it was just a very funny thing to think about.
Fleeting thought. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, a really great game. Just, it was
Yeah.
back and forth. I think the Lions led for most of it.
Mhm.
But there was never really a point in time where I thought that the Rams weren't right there with them. Puka Nacua obviously went off. He had 180 yards, I think it was.
Yes, and it was the most receiving yards by a rookie wide receiver in
Wookie.
a playoff game.
Yes.
In a playoff game.
Yeah, he was incredible. I mean, he was awesome. The stage
Mhm.
wasn't too big for him. Jameer Gibbs and Sam Laporta also came up huge as rookies. I appreciate Sean McVay after the game. When asked about a very controversial non call on what would have
Mhm.
been pass interference on the Lions
Mhm.
defense on Puka Nacua. He basically said, "Look, like, whatever, but hats off to the Lions." Like, he didn't want
Yeah.
to get it twisted that he was blaming it on the refs. It's like the Lions played a great game. We should
Yeah.
focus on the fact that they played a great game.
I loved the
Unfortunately,
entirety of his post
yeah,
game presser. He
he
talked a lot about how like this team made him fall in love with football
and I
again.
was gonna
And
say it felt that way.
yeah, he was
It
like
felt
this
different
like
than other years.
he almost walked away like
Mhm.
twice in the last 2 years. He almost walked away, and he said that this team reinvigorated that love for football for him, and he was really having fun with it again.
And it felt like it.
Yeah.
It is a shame. I think we all knew it was going to happen, but there had to be at least one very controversial end of game call in the first round of the playoffs on national television, and we got it.
Mhm.
It should have been a pass interference.
I agree.
And unfortunately, it effectively cost the Rams the game.
Mhm.
The Lions deserve the win. That's not what I'm saying. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But it's just unfortunate that this has to keep happening and there's no answer for it.
Yep.
Because I didn't think this one was all that controversial to me. This was not quite on the level of the Rams Saints game
Mhm.
from whenever that was, 2018, 19, whenever.
Yep.
But it was pretty obvious, in my opinion. So yeah, just interesting to see if the NFL really says much about it. It definitely flew under the radar compared to some controversial calls, I feel like, because how close the game was, and everyone's happy for the Lions, and that's
Yes.
understandable. The Detroit has nothing to be ashamed of. They didn't make the call; they live with it. There were other missed calls, but it's
Mhm.
just a shame. It's a shame that this has to keep happening. Also, Sean McVay is a coward. That has very long been my number one complaint about him. He's a great offensive mind.
Where's the surrender index
Why
punt?
it was
Where's the
90 it
one?
was over 99th percentile.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I don't know why he punted it. It was
Yeah, that's in my notes here is that I just felt like the Rams weren't aggressive enough. They were also 0 for
they
3
never
in the
are.
red zone. They were 0 for 3 in the red zone, and that is kind of where this game ends, right? Is
Yep.
0 for 3 in the red zone. After that, what are you supposed to do? For me, the Lions rookies, I think, played a huge role in this. Laporta, Gibbs, Branch, Campbell all held their weight here. Goff is the first quarterback ever to win a playoff game against a team he previously started a playoff game for. I think the most interesting for me about him in this game was that he was 22 for 22 and 277 yards and 1 touchdown when he had pressure. So he has been playing phenomenal. And also
Yep.
I think the stat is they won every game in which their starting offensive line was all there.
Yeah.
They've won every game. They were all there. That unit was incredibly cohesive throughout this game and did everything they could. And Goff made the most of it. Laporta had the most receptions by a rookie tight end in a playoff debut. I just think this team was really firing on all cylinders. And I credit the Rams for what they were able to do because this game could have very well have gotten away from them with how the Lions were performing. And the Rams were able to keep up and slow them down just enough to keep up with them. Shout out to the moon. The moon was a waxing crescent the last time that the Lions won a playoff game. It was also a waxing crescent on Sunday when they won their playoff game. The Los Angeles Rams and Detroit Lions wildcard playoff game on Sunday night on NBC and Peacock averaged 35.8 million viewers across all platforms, with 31.9 million viewers on NBC stations, ranking as TV's most watched primetime show since Super Bowl. Which number is that?
That would be 57.
57, according to Nielsen. That was on Arash Markazi's Twitter. And Ford Field really had a 12th man. They topped out at 133.6 decibels, which is the equivalent of a jet engine.
Do you not know how to read Roman numerals?
No.
L is 50.
Okay.
V is 5.
And then V is 5.
And then
okay.
The line is 1.
V is 5. I don't really need to know that.
You watch? No, you do. You honest to God, you do.
Yeah.
You do a football podcast, and
yes, I understand, but I know the numbers in the season.
Oh, you do. So I didn't have to just read it for you.
No, I'm saying
oh,
do you get what I'm? I mean, in the season, I can be like, oh, this Super Bowl is this number, but I don't know the.
But Roman if someone shows you a logo, you're screwed.
Yeah, I don't know the Roman numerals.
That's not good.
Anyway, the crowd noise made the Rams use 2 timeouts in the second half at crucial moments. I also think that played a huge role. Absolutely. The Lions, what a story for them, and it was really incredible to watch. It felt like one of those moments that you'll remember, even if you're not a diehard Lions fan, to be able to. I felt like I was like a kid, sitting up late, past my bedtime, watching the Lions and being like, "Wow, this is so cool." Anyway.
Before we move on, I have a small update.
Okay.
Diana Rossini tweeted 8 minutes ago, though this may suggest that Nick Sirianni is safe, I'm told he has not yet met with owner Jeffrey Lurie, something that was not possible today because of logistical issues. Until that meeting happens, all bets are off. So I take back what I said about all of that taking place after said meeting. This is the meeting that essentially got Doug Peterson fired back in 2020.
Good.
2020. Basically, Jeffrey Lurie went into that meeting expecting to retain Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson did not have good enough answers into how he was going to rebuild his coaching staff moving forward and his plan for going forward. And that left Jeffrey Lurie with the choice to fire him. So all bets are still off. Yeah. Great. Sorry.
Okay. On to the Bills Steelers. Obviously, this game is not where we told you it was going to be on Monday afternoon. This happened at 4:30? 4:30 on Monday afternoon. It got postponed. The Buffalo area was bombarded with snow, lake effect snow. Really cool weather phenomenon if you want to look into it. Bombarded with snow. They had a bunch of shovelers. They were paying $20 an hour if you wanted to go shovel the field for them. They ended up postponing the game for the safety of, not really for the game, to make sure that they could safely get the fans to and from the field. Buffalo obviously last year lost some lives in a snowstorm because emergency services could not get to them. So they wanted to do this for the safety of the entire city. So they postponed it to Monday. And the Bills fans made the best of it. They made thrones out of snow and ice. They made slides down the stairs because basically they didn't clear out all of the snow from the seats. So it all went into the stairs and people would just slide down the stairs. It looks like Bills and Steelers fans had a lot of fun together, at least. And they got to watch a game, and the Bills come out on top 31-17.
Yeah, this was the 2-7 seed matchup that we were expecting. It was never particularly close.
No.
Yeah, the Bills ran away with it. Josh Allen was spectacular. Everyone stopped complaining about what sort of almost kind of maybe looked like a fake slide. It wasn't. Just shut up. I'm so sick of Twitter discourse. Yet I refuse to get off of it because I admit I am addicted. And it's bad for my mental health. But here I am not making any changes because I need to. Yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. But yeah, it wasn't a close game. And the Bills are now moving on to have a home game against the Kansas City Chiefs, which we will talk more about later. But yeah, my biggest takeaway is the Bills have a pit where they're sacrificing people
Yes.
into. If that
Thank
sounds
God we can talk
weird, it
about it.
is.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's the pit where their new stadium is being built, and someone like accidentally fell in
5 weeks ago.
before their winning streak that led to them being the 2 seed. And since then, they have been sacrificing, not dying, but like pushing. People have been falling in on purpose
Yep.
as a way to keep this winning streak going. In a different group chat that I was in this week, we were talking about NFL alignment charts, as in lawful, neutral, evil,
Yes.
chaotic, all that kind of stuff. Good, and I firmly put the Bills in chaotic good,
Yes.
and that does feel very accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially given this news. I did see I think it was like a screenshot of like a Twitter exchange, but it was basically like, do you think the right sacrifice would have enough power to bring a Super Bowl win? Like if we sacrifice Taylor Swift, can that, we'd get the Super Bowl? Someone said, no, I think that would get us world peace. And then the guy responded with, I'm more concerned about the Super Bowl. That's fair. I respect it. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, this all stems from an ER doctor who reported that like 5 weeks ago, somebody came in and was like, I accidentally fell in the Bills pit. And they were like, what? And then they won. And then now it's like the pit has like a cult that they're like, one person has to fall into the pit. And one person has fallen into the pit. The ER doctor says at least one has fallen into the pit during this winning streak. So now we have 9/11 firing the offensive coordinator and the pit to all attribute to this Bills winning streak.
Yep. Dan did point out accidentally drunk, basically the same thing. I agree. Also, yes, they did throw snowballs once again at the opposing team in the end zone, but we will never hear about it again until they do it again next year. Because it wasn't at Santa and it didn't happen in the 60s and Philadelphia didn't do it. So it doesn't matter really in the grand scheme of things. And
the snow made for one more of my favorite pictures in the NFL this season, which is when the Bills scored their first touchdown.
That's how much it doesn't matter. She didn't even respond to my statement, just said, yeah, I'm moving on. It's not the Eagles throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. That's for damn sure.
It's not.
So
it's
go
not.
on, Ashley.
Anyway, it's when they took the snow and they were basically making like snow fireworks with it. They were throwing it up in the air, everyone at the same time. It was a really cool picture, if you can find that one.
Wow, it sounds really great, Ashley. Cool.
It was. It's no throwing snowballs at Santa Claus, but
Yep. Great.
Yep. All right. Well, now that you get to talk about that, you get to talk about the Eagles. The Eagles lose in terrible fashion. They fall 32-9 to the Buccaneers. Before I even talk, I will give you the floor.
It's just people might call bullshit on this, but I texted Ashley after Dallas lost. I said, I honestly, I'm not even going to be upset if the Eagles lose now, because the only thing that I was upset about pre this playoffs was like Dallas is in a good position to break their streak of not making the conference championship, which I like that streak. And then they lost, and I was like, all right, honestly, because this wasn't.
The text was, I don't even care if the Eagles win now. And then the next one after that was, couldn't care less.
Yeah. And it's because instead of going in with expectations, the last month has just been a constant depressive state, lowering my expectations. And Dan said, felt like most Eagles fans knew they were going to lose. We did. Some of us talked ourselves into it after Dallas lost, and we were like, well, that would be fun.
You talked yourself into it last Wednesday.
No, but do you remember my reasoning?
No.
It was so. You're the worst.
I forget.
You're the worst.
I was so tied up on the fact that when you were talking, all I could think about was how the week before you told me that the Bucks were somebody that you didn't want to face, but then you walked that back and you said if you were the Cowboys.
I didn't walk it back. It's once again you didn't listen to what I said, which we are now proving 2 weeks in a row. You didn't listen to what I said. What I said was I said we were going to lose, and I changed my mind halfway through because I realized what was actually going to happen is we were going to win so we could lose to Dallas in the second round so they can go on to the conference championship. If
Okay.
we after Dallas lost, I knew we were going to lose because there's nothing like we don't care if we lose to the Lions, and that's who we would have played. We don't care. If you had to put us in front of Dallas and then we had to lose on national television to Dallas, that's torture. That's torture. This was the most painful way to go out. All I said last week was we would go out in the most painful way.
Yeah.
We did by scoring 9 points.
Yep.
Also, the tush push didn't fail. They very clearly grabbed his fucking face mask and pulled him back. So everybody shut the hell up. It didn't fail. The only thing I was upset about is the fact that was likely, not guaranteed, but likely Jason Kelsey's last game. And Jason Kelsey is a first ballot Hall of Famer, will likely have his jersey retired, and he's an awesome human being. So that sucks. Not to mention a couple other franchise stars that are likely going, and there's a good chance it's near their last game or whatever. But yeah, not a lot of fun. We'll talk about the Bucs more when we get to their matchup. But last thing I have to say about the Eagles and their coaching situation is something actually that I was reminded of that Jeffrey Lurie said after Doug Peterson was fired. And that's that he said he opened his press conference basically by saying Doug Peterson does not deserve to be fired. He does not deserve to lose his job. But that's where we are. That is very much how I feel about Nick Sirianni. He probably deserves to continue to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles and have a chance to turn it around after showing what he's already shown. It doesn't matter if he deserves it because it's truly seemed like I have not seen such a lifeless team in my life. That's maybe not true, but in a very long time have I not seen such a lifeless Philadelphia Eagles team with no expectation of winning the game. No fight for winning the game, save for 4 guys. It was Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, and Devonta Smith. Those are the guys that I can say played their goddamn hearts out. Notice Jalen Hurts is not on that list. I love Jalen Hurts. He was not the reason they lost. He wasn't even bad. But they put him in bad position after bad position after bad position, and it got to him, and it showed, and that is what it is. And that is why it doesn't matter if Nick Sirianni deserves to be the head coach for another season. He might be. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll end it with that. I've talked about the Eagles too much already.
My takeaways were that the pass protection unit literally didn't work the entire game, and that the secondary was getting eaten alive. I have one quick question that I want a simple answer for, not long.
Yeah, good luck.
Did the Eagles have blinders on for their in-season consistencies because of last season's success and this year's hopes?
No.
I saw a tweet that was similar to this, and I kind of reworded it, but no. Okay, that was just my question.
No.
Anyway, Baker Mayfield has more playoff wins than the Browns have since 1995. Baker has 2, the Browns have 1.
And the one that the Browns have, Baker got them.
Let's talk about the divisional round. The number 4 Texans will head to Baltimore to play the number 1 seed Ravens. That'll be Saturday at 4:30 on ABC/ESPN/ESPN Plus. Baltimore opened as 9.5 points favorites and is now 9-point favorites. Obviously, this is a week 1 rematch for these two teams, who are very different.
I forgot they played week 1, honestly.
Yeah.
Who won?
Ravens.
Okay. They lost a lot of weird games early in the season. Not a lot, but the ones they lost. My first thought is this is going to be a really good game. I think there's a really good chance it's the best game of the weekend. Obviously, I think the focus is going to be on Bills Chiefs because of that rivalry. But I think it's going to be a really, really, really good game. And it's really cool. I think we're going to see a lot of award winners in this game. We're going to see the likely MVP, the likely offensive rookie of the year, and my vote at least, which it's going to be a toss-up, I think, for coach of the year in D'Amico Ryans. It's just going to be a really good game. I don't have a lot to say.
Mark Andrews is elevated off of IR. He was at practice this week, so we can assume that he'll be involved in the game in some sorts. Ravens are 4-0 in the last 4 matchups against the Texans. They're 11-13 overall. The Ravens led the league in sacks this season, 60. Texans gave up a lot, 47. Ravens ranked 7th in the pass rush grade from PFF. For me, the big takeaways is that the Ravens need to force turnovers here. They need to force Stroud to throw into tight windows, have an elite pass rush, and, absolutely get on Stroud. I think Kyle Hamilton's going to be a game changer in this game for the very electric Texans offense and the way it's been going. Ravens have mostly been a zone defense team this season, along with the rest of the league. They rank about middle of the pack with a 71% zone defense. The Texans do play, it looks like about 4% better their receivers do against zone defense. So it'll be interesting to see if that switches up. But yeah, for me, I think this is my highlight of the weekend. Absolutely.
I think it's also important to note that the Texans also have the fewest giveaways in the league this year.
Yes.
And that's with a rookie quarterback, which is, again, something you never see.
He had a 1.1% interception rate this season, which is insane. Yep.
They've Houston's offense, they're just really good. No matter the pieces they're missing, seemingly they find ways to have explosive plays. That's probably why their offensive coordinator is starting to get some actual real head coaching buzz. Bobby Slovic, I believe his name is.
PFF guy.
Yeah, you know where he's from?
Where?
Right outside Philadelphia, in Jersey. So
I figured once you say a question like that, that's usually the answer.
Yep, it's like a dad asking, do you know where they went to college? Is it the college team that you like? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I get that from my dad.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yep.
Who is your pick for this game?
Lamar Jackson is 1-3 in the playoffs in his career.
I know.
I picked 2 games correctly last weekend. I went 2 for 4. I'm gonna take the Houston Texans.
Oh, I went 3-3.
You went 3 and 3.
Picked one different.
You picked the Lions.
I'm taking the Houston Texans too.
No, all right, then I'm taking the Ravens. It's not fun if we're both contradictory. I'm gonna take the Ravens then.
It's really close for me, and what puts me over the edge is that I want the Texans to win. So I want the Houston Texans.
I want the Texans to win as well, but I'm gonna take the Ravens then.
Yeah, I'm taking the Houston Texans. All right, on to the next, which would be Saturday night's game at 8:15 on Fox. That would be the number 7 seed, first time ever, playing the number 1 seed, the Niners. I didn't even say this. The number 7 seed Packers at the number 1 seed Niners. That will be on Fox. San Francisco is also 9-point favorites heading into this game. I will point out that no team that has lost to Kirk Cousins has ever played in the Super Bowl in that same year, and that the Niners lost to Kirk Cousins 17-22 this season.
There you go.
Spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of expect the Niners to dominate, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is very much where I look at it, and it reminds me a little bit of like, am I underestimating them like I did last week with Dallas? Yeah. But my guess is probably not, because the Niners have more talent. They're more consistent. They're better coached. And I just have more faith in them in general. So I do believe that this is probably where it catches up with them. Aaron Jones was incredible last week. He had 118 yards on 21 carries. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. I just don't really expect that to go the same way, especially with the Niners. And this is important for the Ravens as well, especially with the Niners coming off of a first-round bye. Which is the only one. Only the first seeds get them, and that is insanely important. They were the number 2 scoring offense in the NFL,
and they were banged up.
Yeah,
they were banged up going into the bye, and that really like strengthened them because a lot of their guys got healthy. Christian McCaffrey was banged up. Key defensive players were banged up. The bye was absolutely needed for this Niners team.
Yep. It's a great coaching matchup with Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur. LaFleur he was under Shanahan with the Falcons. I believe he might have also been in Washington with Shanahan. He was under Sean McVay for a little bit. They're both from the same general McVay Shanahan tree sort of thing. That extended family of coaches. I believe they were both a part of that very infamous 2013 Washington coaching staff that has like 9 head coaches from it or something, and Washington has none of them. But yeah, very interesting coaching matchup. And yeah, I think the Packers are going to make it a closer game. I'd probably pick them to cover. However, I will be taking San Francisco to win the game.
Yeah, for me, this game is not as much intrigue. I am also taking San Francisco to win the game. When I was doing my like stats before and pulling information, literally the only things I wrote down was that the San Francisco pass defense is the best in the league, and I think that's really going to impact the Packers because their run defense is also like third best in the league. So I don't know. It's hard to face that. I think for the Packers, they're the seventh best at pass block, which is going to be actually like the make or break for them in this game. That their pass defense will have to absolutely be crucial for them to have to even stay in this game. The Niners have lost every game they've lost. Brock Purdy has turned over the ball at least once, and I think that has to be their goal. I know they turned over Dak twice, but they were middle of the pack in turnovers this season, so they just have to kind of keep up that pressure.
Yeah.
And on to the number 4 seed Buccaneers heading to Detroit for, again, Detroit's second playoff game. Only time they've played 2 playoff games at home. The number 3 Lions. That will be Sunday at 3 o'clock on NBC. Detroit is currently 6.5 point favorites.
I think this is the most likely one to be a blowout of the week. I think the Lions are going to wipe the floor with them.
Absolutely.
And it's mainly because look, the Bucs, they could have easily put up like 40 on the Eagles if they didn't have like 3 different drops. The weeks prior to that, they were miserable on offense. The Lions defense, their passing defense isn't particularly good, but the Eagles passing defense could make me look like an all-pro caliber quarterback the way they were playing. I just think it's more likely than not that the Lions just blow them out offensively, and I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be able to keep up. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to be able to get after Baker, who's still a little bit hobbled. And he's been great this season. But at the end of the, I think there's a large enough talent gap mismatch that the Lions will make the most of it and kind of just blow them away.
Yeah. Hutchinson will be paired, matched up with Gadecki, who has performed well this season, but I don't think it's going to be any match for Aiden Hutchinson. And I think to me, when I do my stats before the game, I look at games prior and what's most important. Tampa gave up 250 to Jalen Hurts in an Eagles offense that could barely move the ball. And they haven't been great against quarterbacks this season. I think against Goff, they need to be better to try and slow down I think that their ultimate goal here is to just try and slow the offense. I don't even know that the goal is to make them stop scoring points. It's you just have to slow them down a little bit. Yeah. The Bucs are one of 3 teams to give up 1,000 yards to tight ends this season. Levante David's usually the one paired on tight ends, and he was pretty mid this season. So against Laporta, who's having a incredible first year for a rookie tight end, I think that's a tough matchup. The Bucs were best at slowing running backs who pass catch. So I think that'll be good for them. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a hard time receiving, but the Bucs held running and the running game. The Bucs were able to hold running backs to 3.9 yards per game and 95.3 yards per carry and 95.3 yards per game. They have the 3rd highest blitz rate this season, which is great if you weren't playing Jared Goff, who just went 22 for 22 and 177 and 1.
That was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Who are you taking?
I'm taking the Lions.
Cool. Me too.
Okay.
I think I'd take them to cover as well.
Yes. And on to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they're the number 3 seed, and Patrick Mahomes will be playing his first road playoff game ever. They are heading to Buffalo, the number 2 seed. That game will be Sunday at 6:30 on CBS. Buffalo is been given the normal 3-point home favorites, so they're only 3-point favorites right now.
Essentially saying that if it were on a neutral field, it would be an even match.
Yep.
It would be a push.
Wait, before you talk, I want to say that there is more snow coming in the Buffalo area, and there is a good chance Bills have to cancel a bunch of their practices this week. The same area around Orchard Park and Buffalo is getting probably another 2 to 3 feet of lake effect snow between today and tomorrow. So that's good. They're going to need more shovelers if you're in the Orchard Park area and want to shovel.
My back hurts just thinking about that.
I know.
But yeah, this one's gonna be it's gonna be great TV.
Mhm.
This will be the third time they faced off against each other. The Josh Allen led Bills and the Patrick Mahomes led Chiefs in the playoffs. Mahomes currently is winning that matchup at a 2-0 record. However, they've played each other 6 times, and the record overall is 3-3. The most recent one being in Week 14, the infamous Kadarius Toney lining up offsides game. And that game is also the very reason why this game is being played in Buffalo rather
Yes.
than being played in Kansas City like the other times it has in the playoffs. It's really going to be a fun game. The last time they met in the playoffs, another infamous matchup was the one where it went to overtime and Josh Allen never got to touch the ball, which prompted the rule change for NFL playoffs, overtime rules. This is going to be must-see TV. This is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are turning into the closest thing that this generation is getting to a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady type rivalry.
Yeah.
There's definitely mutual respect in the same way there was between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. They play almost every regular season, having consistently won their divisions, and this will be the third high pressure matchup in the playoffs, which is just fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great game, and I am going to be taking the Buffalo Bills to get their
Me
first
too.
win over the Chiefs in the playoffs. I think the home field advantage is going to be massive for them. And I think just overall, the Bills are playing better football than the Chiefs are right now. And I think Josh Allen, if the MVP was voted on in like the last 5 weeks of the regular season plus the playoffs, I think Josh Allen would have as good of a chance for it as anyone. But that's
I
not how it
agree.
works. So
I agree. I am taking the Bills as well. I just think the Bills defense is playing a lot better than I expected them to, especially with all of the injuries they had early on in the season. I think the Week 14 matchup gives us a lot of insight to this game because it was so late in the season that they are pretty similar to who they were at Week 14. It's not like you're seeing the Ravens-Texans matchup of Week 1 and you can put much stock in that. I just think, like you said, the Bills are playing better football. I think for this game, my eyes, if the Chiefs are going to win, are going to be on L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones. And I think that it's going to have to be on forcing Josh Allen to turn over the ball. But for me, I think it's going to end in the opposite. I think it goes to overtime, and I think Josh Allen wins it because of the rule. That's my
you
guess.
think it's going to be?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Just for the thrill of it.
I believe it was Ben Solak that tweeted the funniest way that this could end would be going to overtime. The Bills get the ball first. Josh Allen scores a touchdown, but then Patrick Mahomes scores a touchdown. They go for 2 and win the game that way.
And they win the game.
And that would be the funniest way because if they weren't for the rule change, the Bills would win.
It would. I will say the Bills, the head ref in this game is not very favorable to the Bills.
No, it was Steve Hockley, I believe.
Yeah, he's not very favorable. Remember the intentional grounding call?
Yep.
That was his. He does tend to favor home teams, though. If you look at his records on calling penalties, he does tend to favor home teams. So it evens it out a little bit, but he doesn't seem to be a big fan of the Bills.
Yep.
All right. So we have one differing opinion, and technically you agree, but
I thought I was gonna. I wanna make it back. I'm a game behind you right now.
Yes.
I was taking the Texans because I do believe in them, but also I wanted to jump ahead of you. And if we picked all the same games, that wouldn't work. And I had a feeling you'd pick the same for the rest of them. So when you took the Texans, I'm happy to take the Ravens.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up. We will be staying cold tonight and ready for the divisional round. Duncan, where can we find you in the meantime?
Watching Joel Embiid win a second consecutive MVP, hopefully. And anxiously waiting to find out who will be coaching the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2024 season. And also thanking Jerry Jones for being a bumbling moron.
And you can find him on Twitter at MPDuncan75.
That too. Yep.
You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's and Ashley. Me, Duncan, the entire Undroppables crew on our Discord channels by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theundroppables. Some really cool things going on with the team right now, so please come join us. And you can find us here on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we'll be recapping the divisional round and getting ready to move on to the next. And you could listen wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can watch us back on YouTube if you prefer video, but you could see us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that jazz. We thank you for being with us tonight, and we hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend of football, everyone. Stay warm.
Go Birds.
Bye.